Hi, folks. Again, this is Ann Umali from NAAEE. I just want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us this afternoon for the ee360 Community EE Fellowship Program info session. We've got an incredible group here joining us today from all over, so thank you for taking the time this afternoon. I'm joined today by my colleague, Colby Parkinson, who is our communication specialist, and it'll be the two of us on with you today answering all of your questions about ee360 and the fellowship program. Okay, so here is the agenda we've got planned for you all. We're going to be doing really briefly an overview of NAAEE and ee360. Then we're going to get into the fellowship benefits of participation, some of the requirements of participation, eligibility requirements, and then we'll finish up with a preview of the online application and some important dates. We will have some time at the very end for Q&A, but feel free to just jump in with your questions in the chat box, and we'll be pausing throughout the next hour to take your questions. So no need to wait till the very end. Jump in with your questions as you think of them. All right, so this is our vision of NAAEE. It's a sustainable future for all, where environmental education and social responsibility to drive all of our individual and institutional choices. And how we do that is we bring the brightest minds together. We're a convener, and we accelerate environmental literacy and civic engagement all through the power of education. We are the professional association who like to think of ourselves as the champion and backbone organization for the entire field of EE. And we work with a diverse group of educators in the US, Canada, Mexico, and many, many other parts of the world to advance environmental education. And we serve a broad audience, and that includes formal and non-formal educators in NGOs and businesses, big and small, and universities, government institutions, foundations, and more. And we also have more than 50 grassroots state, provincial, and regional affiliates all across North America. And we're always looking to grow our network. And we think of our NAAEE affiliate network as our biggest asset and why we're able to do so much incredible work across North America. Now on to ee360. I want to take a few minutes just to talk a little bit about this program, this umbrella program, where this fellowship program is a part of. So ee360 is managed through this 5-year cooperative agreement. It's US EPA's National Environmental Education and Training Program. It's 5 years long, and we are going to be starting our 4th year starting in 2020. And all of our work through ee360 is accomplished through the help of our 8 dedicated NGO and university partners. And you can see all of their logos here. We work with an incredible group of people. And we get additional support and advice from some really incredibly diverse advisors and federal partners that have probably hundreds and hundreds of years of combined experience, if we count every single individual that's part of this network. Our vision for ee360 is pretty simple. It's an environmentally literate and engaged public that's building more resilient communities. And our mission is to strengthen the field of EE, to have a culturally diverse group of EE professionals that are delivering high quality environmental education. And one of the ways we're doing that is through leadership development and delivering high impact training. And this is where the fellowship comes in. So getting into some of the details of the fellowship, It is a 9-month fellowship starting in April of next year, April through December. And there are 2 face-to-face training and learning opportunities that will serve as the main touchstones for the fellowship. In addition to those 2 face-to-face opportunities, we also have additional online opportunities to network and learn together, including monthly webinars. And this 9-month fellowship will be laying the foundation for additional professional development and growth even after the formal fellowship ends. And now we'll be getting into some of the fellowship benefits, and there are many. The main one is professional development for you as an EE professional. And the focus of that professional development is on a number of high priority topics like leadership training, participatory planning strategies, strategic communications, project planning, fundraising. These are skills that have been identified by other EE professionals as being priority topics to help you be a better EE professional. And while we do have a training design outline already in place, we will be we will be giving out a needs assessment to the selected 2020 cohort so that we can continue to fill in the gaps with that needs assessment. Also, fellows will receive an enhanced professional network of other ee360 community EE fellows and other leaders in this field. And that includes fellows from the 2020 cohort as well as the 2018 cohort. And just the 2018 cohort, that represents an incredibly diverse array of individuals from many, many disciplines beyond the traditional EE field. Fellows will also have increased access to relevant practices and EE resources through our hub, our EE Pro Professional Development Hub for all EE professionals. And all fellows will receive full financial support to attend the 5-day Leadership Institute, which is set for June 28th to July 3rd. It'll be at the National Conservation Training Center in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. So full financial support. All fellows will be coming from all over, and we'll be together for 5 days learning and sharing together next summer. And the second opportunity to meet face-to-face will be at the 49th Annual NAAEE Conference and Research Symposium. It's set for October 14th to 17th, 2020. All fellows will get a $1,200 scholarship to attend and to help offset some of the costs for attending the conference. So that is another great opportunity to network and learn together and get together again face-to-face. Additionally, fellows will be receiving technical assistance in planning and implementing their community action project. And very excitingly, fellows will get access to competitive mini grant funds to help implement their projects. And lastly, all fellows will receive recognition through our websites, through ee360 and NAAEE for themselves as individuals as well as their organizations. Okay, I'm going through this pretty quickly. That was a lot of benefits we just covered, but just want to remind folks that if they do have questions about the fellowship, to please go ahead and jot your questions down in the chat box and we'll get to them at the end. Okay, now we're going to be moving on to the fellowship requirements. And there are a few. The first one is that all fellows will be required to take part in all networking and training opportunities throughout the 9 months. Also, attendance is mandatory for the Leadership Institute in the summer. And all fellows must design a community EE action project. We'll be talking a little bit more on that when we get to eligibility. And all fellows must complete a community EE action plan that describes the work that they're going to be doing. Last page on requirements, all fellows must develop a fundraising strategy that gets into detail of how they're going to raise the funds needed to support their work. Fellows must reach at least 100 participants directly through their community EE action project. We've got midterm and final progress reports. They're pretty simple, not to worry. And then the last requirement here is attendance at the annual conference in Tucson. That's definitely a requirement. Okay, so it seems like we've got lots and lots of benefits, but only a few requirements, but maybe that's just my perspective. Moving on to eligibility, we have 3 main eligibility requirements. And the first one is all fellows must have at least 5 years of experience, and that is broadly defined in EE, conservation, or community engagement. And this can be paid work, it can be volunteer work, it can be college and university courses. There is no age requirement. That's a question I get a lot. There's no age requirement, and there's also no age limit. If you look at our 2018 class, you'll see that we've got fellows in their early to mid-20s, up to fellows in their mid to late 60s. And there may be some older fellows that I don't know about that just look really good for their age. So eligibility, at least 5 years of experience, that's broadly defined. The next eligibility requirement is a partner organization. And that's mainly because we can't really work with fellows that are just working independently by themselves, but we want fellows that are tapped into a support network through their partner organization. And this partner organization can be an ee360 partner, it can be an NAAEE state affiliate, or it can be any other community-based organization or national organization whose goals and practices make a positive contribution to the field. So that's basically any organization out there that's doing some great work. And your partner organization, you must have a letter of support from them detailing how they will support you throughout your 9-month fellowship. And this partner letter should also explicitly state organizational support for you to attend the Leadership Institute as well as the conference. Okay, and just want to reiterate how important it is to have a partner organization that really supports and backs you as a fellow. Our fellows with the most successful projects have significant backing from a committed partner organization. And let me just pause for a second because I'm noticing there's a few questions in the chat box about partner organizations. Jenna's asking about examples from the 2018 cohort. Perfect. We're going to get to that in about 2 more seconds. And yes, you can have 2 partner organizations. Absolutely. If you do have 2 partner organizations, there is space for 2 letters of support. So I would have a letter from each partner organization that clearly details each partner's role and responsibilities and how they're going to be supporting you as a fellow. Okay. All right. And so that's partner organization. And I see one more question from Julie. Your employer, yes, can be your partner organization. We do have fellows from the 2018 class who have their employers as partner organizations, as well as folks that have partner organizations that aren't their employers. So that is definitely an option, Julie. Okay, so the last note on eligibility is that all fellows must come with a creative idea for an EE action project. And that EE action project must use some kind of environmental education strategy that addresses a local, state, or national environmental issue. And so that can be, it can be a brand new idea, or it can be part of your existing and ongoing work. If it is part of your existing and ongoing work, we do want to see how this fellowship will be an expansion on your work, or a new twist, or a new idea, or a new facet to your project, whether that's a new audience or a new partnership or some kind of expansion to your existing work. So EE action projects, we're really looking at creativity, we're looking at innovation, and we're looking at ways that this fellowship, participation in this fellowship, how it's going to move your idea and your professional work forward. Okay, it looks like there is another question from Roberto. What kind of EE action project, and are there specific issues or topics? Right now, we are looking for a specific issue that is important to you and to the local community that you're working in. And so it can be any particular issue that's important. And what we're really looking at is that you're using environmental education to address that issue. And so we really aren't going to be prescriptive and you have to it has to be a water quality issue or it has to be an air pollution issue. We really want you to be presenting an idea that shows that you have, that you're in tune with what's happening in the community, that you're addressing a community need, and that you're working with a local partner to address that need. And yes, there's another question from Sylvia. Even if it's something local, it still needs to impact at least 100 individuals. And yes, that's correct. And when we say directly involve 100 individuals, that means in the direct planning as well as implementation of your work. And that could be through a presentation you give at a conference, for example. You can count those conference attendees as people that you are reaching through your work. Or if you give a workshop, say, for 25 educators, you can count those 25 educators as being directly involved in your work. And we will absolutely help you get that community action plan developed, to get your fundraising plan developed, all those strategies. The idea that what we're looking for in the application is that you've got partnership support, that you have a good idea, and that you've got some kind of backing and support to implement your idea. And what we want is to have the training that we do together is for you to be able to refine your ideas and to get them to a better place because of that fellowship. Okay, I'm just going to take another moment to pause to see if folks have additional questions before I get into the details of the application. Okay, so Colby's helping me out. Sorry for the pause, but Colby's helping me out with some questions. I think we got to most of them, but I see that there's a question about organizational support and what does that mean to attend the Leadership Institute and the conference. It doesn't necessarily have to be a financial commitment. For example, since the Leadership Institute is all expenses paid by EE360, but if you need, for example, time off to attend, that your partner organization is going to recognize that you need time off to attend, to travel to get there, and that you're, just as an example, if your partner organization is your employer, and that you're going to be able to have the time and space required to build this fellowship into your current work responsibilities. And so partnership support can be monetary, that's true, but it's mostly about whether or not that organization is going to help you and maybe integrate what you're learning at the Leadership Institute with that partner organization. So for example, you might attend the Leadership Institute and then go back to your partner organization and give a brown bag talk on what you learned, and giving a talk on some of the resources you learned about and some of the training that you experienced. And that partner organization will help you find meeting space and a meeting time, and will help you with some of the logistics to organize a meeting. And so partnership support can be an incredibly important part of your fellowship experience, of whether or not you've got that backing. And it is not only financial, but it is also in-kind support. Like, do you get any kind of advice or professional support from a partner organization to help you do this work? Let's see. I think there are a few more questions. There's a question about the fellowship and whether or not it's extended out of North America. For now, the fellowship is only in North America, so the United States, Canada, and Mexico. In 2018, we were able to expand participation internationally. We are in the process of heavily fundraising to get that international support again. As of today, we do not have the financial support for international fellows just yet, but we may have some additional news to share come January. But I'm keeping all of my fingers and toes crossed. But as of now, we do not have financial support for international fellows yet. And yes, that when we say U.S. territories are eligible. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Let's see, there was a question where someone was asking about the application and what kind of level of detail to get into the project. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later when we talk about the application. Let me see if there's anything else. So I think we talked about that. Okay, so let's talk about some of the example projects, because we will be showing you that, so that might help give you a better picture of what kind of projects and individuals we're looking for. So let's keep going on with your questions, and thank you, Colby, for helping me with the questions. Keep entering them in the chat, and we're just going to move on. Really quickly, how to apply. We will be opening up the online application before December 1st. And if you're on this webinar, that means we've got your email address. So you will get an email notification as soon as the online application is open. If you go to our website, you will have to create an EE Pro account. It will be an online application made up of essay questions, your resume, and 2 letters of support. Also, when you go to our website, you can see 32 of our 2018 Community EE Fellows. And this, if you take a look at this page, I encourage all of you to spend some time reading some of the profiles that you'll find, because that'll give you a really good sense of the breadth and depth of all the different projects that we are supporting. And you can see really specific personal and professional bios of these fellows, talking a little bit about their motivation and how they got into the field. And we also will have snapshots of their projects. And that'll give you a better sense of all the incredible variety that these fellows are doing and all the creative and innovative ways that they're using EE strategies to address a community concern and a community need. Okay, so I know there was a question before about example partnerships or example projects. So that is a great place to check out and get some inspiration. Okay, I'm just double checking the chat to see if there's anything else. I see there's a question from Roberto again. Yes, please, support letters should be in English. If that's going to be an issue for anyone, and if your main partner is in Spanish, for example, please send me an email and we will work something out, and we will work with you to figure that out. Any other questions? Okay, there's a question from someone that says, I'm the founder of my organization and my organization will be the support. Who should sign that letter of support? We do have fellows that founded their own organizations. Up on the screen here, you'll see Keelan Blackwell. He founded his own organization, the Chicago Eco House. And I believe one of his letters of support came from his board chair. So if you do have a board in your organization, you can have your board member or board chair submit a letter. Or you can talk to me and we can figure out an additional support letter. Anyone else that has really in-depth knowledge of your professional experience. So we can definitely work with you on that. Let's see, are there any other questions, Colby, that I missed? Oh, okay. There is a question about timeline. For this fellowship, we will be asking you to address to talk about your project in 2020 terms. And so even if you have a project that is ongoing, or a project that's going to be a long-term project, or a project that you started in 2018, I would include your overall timeline, as so that we get a bigger picture of how you're working. But also, if you could narrow down just a little bit, just to let us know your projected accomplishments for 2020, that would be really helpful. Okay, there is a question here. It says, can we get a document that explains what support for us as a fellow would look like to give to the partnership? That's definitely something that I can help you with. If folks would find that useful, that's something that we can draft, as far as if you wanted some kind of support to give. Let's say you want to approach a potential partner organization and you want to ask them to provide a letter of support. That's something that we can give. It's just a short document explaining the fellowship, explaining some examples of support and expectations for a partnership. But overall, that kind of support will really depend on what is needed in that community, what is needed for your project, and what's needed for you as an individual. So there isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all for your partner organization, but we can definitely provide you with something that will show a bit of a baseline for what you can share with a potential partner. Okay, it looks like there is another question here about timing for the application, and we'll keep getting your questions. We're going to get into the actual application in just a minute. So keep on adding your questions into the chat. I just want to mention before we get to the application that if you go to our website, in addition to finding profiles from our 2018 fellows, you can download the full RFP, and that might be also a good thing to share with a potential partner organization. Right now, you can download the Word version of the application and all the questions that we'll be asking, so you can get a head start on your application. And we do plan on having the online application opening before December 1st. If it does open before that, you will all get an email. But at the very latest, it will be open December 1st, and the application will close February 14th. Okay, so let's move on to the actual application and give folks a preview of what we'll be asking. In the meantime, please continue with your questions. And I see Colby is furiously typing over here to make sure we capture everything. Okay, so the application. The application is pretty simple. There are three main chunks of the application. The first big chunk is we're going to be looking at your professional experience. And you'll be able to describe your professional experience through essay questions and through a resume. And so we'll be asking you three specific questions where we are going to be trying to get a better sense of your experience as a community leader and your experience as an environmental educator. And here, we're really going to be looking at your proven leadership experience as well as your leadership potential. So you don't have to apply saying you've got 20 years of leadership experience and this is only a fellowship open to the elite community leaders. But we are looking for that leadership potential, that interest, the skills that are needed and that demonstrate a willingness to work with community members, a willingness to be that community leader. And part of this professional experience, we're going to be asking you a bit about your motivation and why you want to apply and what are you hoping to gain from this fellowship. We really want to get a better understanding of how participation in this fellowship will further advance your personal and professional goals. Okay, so the entire first part of the application is going to be centered on your professional experience. And you'll have the opportunity to upload a resume too. Okay, the second part of the application is going to be centered on your your EE action project. So I know there were some questions about timelines and how detailed should you get. And so just want to spend some time now talking about the EE action project and what you should be including in your application. The online application has all of these bullets here listed. So make sure you use these bullets as a checklist, that you're including everything here. We want to know who your target audience is. Who do you plan on working with? And your timeline. Your timeline should at the very least be a timeline for 2020. But as I said earlier, if you will be doing ongoing work or work that extends beyond 2020, include that information too. Include your project goals and your activities, as well as your short and long-term outcomes. And we'll be defining long-term outcomes as outcomes beyond a year, and your short-term outcomes as outcomes you'll have accomplished by 2020. And we'll be asking you how your project specifically addresses an environmental issue, a social issue, or a community need, and how you're using environmental education to do that. Please also include how you'll be engaging at least one partner organization, whether that's an ee360 partner, a community-based organization, or some other organization. We want you here to in-depth describe how you'll be working with your partner organization through your project. And lastly, we want to hear how your project is innovative and how you're using some kind of creative strategy to address a pressing community concern. Okay. Did we get any questions about community action projects? Let's see. There is a question here that says, should we be including our biggest hope for the project and what it would look like? Absolutely. So I would include that as part of your short and long-term outcomes. What you hope to achieve if everything goes well. So yes, you can absolutely include your big idea, hopes, and dreams for this work. And somebody also asked, I think I may have addressed this earlier, but what kind of EE action projects, and if there are any specific issues or topics. Take a look at the fellows. Right now, you'll see 32 very different projects addressing 32 very different topics and environmental and community issues. So take a look at that for some more ideas and more inspiration. But I think the most important thing is that we're looking for a project that is really addressing a community need and concern, where you are working with a partner to do that, and where you are poised to make a difference and to have using EE to do that. Let's see, are there any other questions specifically about the EE Action Project? Let's see. Okay, so there's a question here from Sylvia. If you're currently serve as your partner, absolutely. If that is the case, I would recommend that you have at least one identified person, whether that's a professor or someone else, that will be that lead. And so if you have your university as a partner, who's going to be your main contact and your main person at the university that will help support you. But yes, Sylvia, your university can be your partner organization. And we do have fellows. We have 2 fellows right now in the 2018 class that are professors and that teach students and lead programs, and they do have their universities as their partner organization. So that's definitely something you've done before. Okay, and there's a question here from Misty about how are people identifying the community need. So that's a pretty long answer, but in a nutshell, I would say that folks are going to be addressing a community need, that there's many ways for identifying that. And most of the time that will be from fellows that are embedded in a community, that are already working in a community or already part of a community and are well versed in that community's assets and organizations and needs and issues, and have already done a community needs assessment and are very familiar with what is happening in the local level. If that is not the case for you, it's not, that doesn't preclude participation in this fellowship program, but you may want to build in some kind of community asset mapping or focus groups or some other methods to figure that out, as far as trying to identify a pressing community need, a priority, and that may be where a partner organization may be able to help you with that. Let's see, there's a question from Tracy. Hi, Tracy, can your state affiliate serve as your organizational sponsor? Absolutely. You can have your state affiliate be your organizational partner, and that is a great way to harness the wonderful, wonderful support that you can get from your state affiliate. So absolutely, Tracy and others, if folks do want to, if you're not already a part of your state affiliate, if you need any assistance approaching your state affiliate, you can definitely reach out to me or to Colby. We can connect you to your state affiliates if you need those introductions, but that is a great way to reach out to a partner organization. All right, so I'm gonna pause for another second to see if anything else comes up. Did we get everything, Colby? Okay, there was a question too about time and how much time other than the 2 weeks of the training do fellows put into the fellowship. So that is going to be a difficult question to quantify, because that really depends on you as an individual and how much of your fellowship, your community action project is already embedded into your current work and volunteer commitments. I would say that if we're just looking at professional development and training, there's the 2 face-to-face opportunities, the leadership clinic and the conference in Tucson. So that's already 2 weeks of face-to-face. There will be at least 1 monthly webinar that can be 1 to 2 hours long, participating in an online webinar. Those webinars are recorded in case you can't make it to it live. If we were to use 2018 as an example, we did have other smaller fellows working groups that were designing other training for other fellows. We had fellows working on different webinars for additional fellows. And so how much time you put into the fellowship really depends on your unique interest and capacity. You can put a ton of time into the fellowship beyond the minimum requirements, or you can do just the bare minimum with the face-to-face training and monthly webinars and regular check-ins and the reporting requirements. But how much you're able to incorporate into your current work and volunteer commitments will really be helpful if you're able to do that. So they are not doing a completely separate side project in addition to your day jobs. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, so what are we on? We're talking about the application. Okay, so I was just talking about professional experience, the EE Action Project, and then the last part of the application is centered on your professional references. We talked a little bit about this already. You must submit 2. One must come from your partner organization detailing their support for you, and then the other reference can come from any other person that's familiar with your professional experience. And these letters should get sent to you directly so that you can upload them and add them to your online application. Okay, so and the last thing I'm going to say that's part of the application, but it's not part of the points, or it's not technically part of the points awarded to your application, are these questions around professional development. And so we are also going to be asking applicants what specific skills, professional development, and learning opportunities would be most beneficial to you as your work as an environmental educator. And this is our way of doing an early needs assessment and identifying priority topics that are going to be most useful. So I mentioned this before, that we do have our training design outline already in place, but we have a ton of room and flexibility to incorporate new ideas if folks want to raise those ideas here in the application. There's space to do that. Additionally, we want to hear, what specific skills and experience you would bring to this fellowship. So because there's such a big focus on mentoring and peer-to-peer learning, we want to make sure that fellows are coming in with an openness to learn and share together, and with a openness to collaborating with their other fellows. And so we saw that a lot in our 2018 class, where fellows with experience in facilitation were helping other fellows design meetings and design workshops. And we had a lot of fellows that in particular had a lot of experience in equity and inclusion issues, and they designed an entire workshop for the whole class. And so we want to put together a 2020 cohort that represents a broad representation of all kinds of skills and abilities, all the skills and abilities that lead to a great community EE leader. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. That's the entire application. And as I said earlier, the whole application, the Word version, you can download it now on our website, just so you can see what to expect. And when it opens later this month, it'll be identical to that Word version. Okay, let me see if there's any more questions. There is a question from Amanda. If your project will likely incorporate more than one partner organization, will submitting more references from all partners help? Unfortunately, the application is limited to 2 letters of support. So I would, if you have 3 or 4 or 10 partner organizations, I would say submit 2 letters from your strongest partner organizations that are providing you with the most support. Then in your application where you talk about your action project, you can specify all the other partner organizations that you will be working with and their roles and responsibilities. So even though you can only submit 2 letters of support, there is space in your application to list all other partner organizations you're working with. Okay. All right. So just to close, I want to reiterate some important dates. Applications are going to open very, very soon, by December 1st, and you all will be getting an email notification as soon as it's open, and they will be due February 14th. Once you create your application, you'll be prompted to open an EE Pro account if you don't have one already. And you can go back to your application, save it, work on it again, save it. And so you don't have to do it and complete it all in one sitting. They'll be due Valentine's Day, February 14th. And then we'll be announcing all fellowship award winners in early April. And the fellowship will run April to December. The Leadership Institute is this summer. We already have the dates finalized, June 28th to July 3rd. And then the last date to remember is the annual conference, October 14th to 17th in Tucson. And that is all I have today. So we've been taking lots and lots of questions throughout. So let's see what else we've got. Let's see. Okay, so there was a question about the timeline and the 100 folks you need to engage. And there was a question about when you need to work with those folks. That's the 100 people you'll be working with throughout your project. So starting in April through the end of 2020, we'll be asking you to work with those 100 people. It might sound like a lot of people to work with and to reach in 9 months, but I would say every single one of the 2018 fellows worked with a lot more than 100 people, and they all had the same concerns, thinking that 100 people, it's going to be impossible to reach that many. But you would be surprised how many people you reach in 9 months, so not to worry about that. Any other questions? Let's just take another second. We will wait. Let me scroll through. There's a question from Sylvia. Yes, CVs are okay instead of resumes, as long as it's still under 2 pages. So you can do a CV instead of a resume, but please keep it down to 2 pages maximum. Okay, let me scroll through the chat box one last time to make sure we got everything. Okay, there is a question from a potential international applicant. In the event that we are able to open the application to international participants, we will extend the deadline. And I know I'm kind of speaking just hypothetically here, but that's exactly what we did in 2017 and 2018 when we did get that last minute funding for international participants. We extended the deadline so that our international folks would have enough time to submit an application. And so we will do our best to make that announcement in early 2020 if we're able to do that. And we'll also make the necessary adjustments to give folks enough time to apply. So just another thank you to everybody that attended. If you do think of any other question between now and February 14th, feel free to email us, send a note to me. I'm Ann Umali. I'm at NAAEE. You can send a note to Ann at NAAEE.org or to the ee360 fellow at NAAE.E.org email. And we will take your questions. Call the office and reach out to us any time if you think of any questions. Take care, everybody, and thanks again for joining. Good luck, everyone.